Good evening, football fans. It is Wednesday night, and this is Southbound and Down, a division of Fan First Productions. Southbound and Down is a premier NFC South focused podcast. We'll be covering week 2 of the NFL this week and take a look at the games of the NFC South. If you're watching and want to participate in the conversation, reach out to us on Twitter at FanFirstPro using the hashtag SBD. Allow me to introduce my panel. It's kind of screwed up now. We got 5 of us. I was only counting on 4 from the Tar Heel State. We have Mr. Aaron Freeman guest appearing for Scott Karasik, who happens to be on the show. They are both Falcon fans. We won't hold that against them. And they both do various things for the Falcons. Aaron, where can people find you at on Twitter?
My stuff is on falcfans.com. My Twitter account is at falcfans. Check out Facebook/falcfans. You know, a lot of Falcon stuff. You know, Scott is here to steal my shine because he couldn't let me shine here. But, we'll forgive him for that.
All right, Mr. Karasik, how can those Falcon fans reach out and get to you?
You can find me on Twitter at KarasicPFS. You can also find my stuff at Pro Football Spot. Aaron, I was moving stuff tonight, finalizing this move into the new place, and
Nice.
I was expecting it to take a lot longer, and we got most of it done before like 7:30. So I was like, oh yeah, I probably should have told him I could go on.
So at like 9:55, Scott's like, invite me. I can make it. Invite me. So anyway, he's here. And we also have from Phoenix by way of Tampa Bay. Don't call him a Bucks fan or he's likely to buck you up. Mr. Gene, don't call me doubting Thomas. Welcome,
Hey,
Gene.
how's everybody doing? You can reach me at Super Heavyweight on Twitter. I love talking football. I do have my own podcast, Buck What You Heard, and I love talking football. So anytime you hit me up, just let me know. Uh, moment of silence for Yogi Berra. We lost a great one today, Hall of Famer,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a really sad day. As far as in the sports world.
Yes, definitely in the sports world.
And if I can go ahead and just drop in again, we lost Richard Williamson, and longtime Carolina Panthers interim Bucks coach, and he coached for one season before he was let go. Really, really classy guy. He did a lot of work with Muhsin Muhammad and
Steve Smith.
Steve Smith for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was a big influence on Mark Carrier, who was quite a good wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who
And for the Panthers.
actually is working for the Panthers at this time.
Yeah, he was good
So,
for the Panthers.
the sports world is feeling that loss, and my heart goes out to those families.
Well, thank you, Gene. That sentiment can be felt by all of us, I believe. And last but certainly not least, our Saints rep is Greg. I don't cut hair, barber. Greg, the Saints have some issues. We'll be covering that later. 2 weeks down, guys. The teams are jockeying for position, and it looks like now will be a 2-horse race. But we do have a lot of football to play still. Before we get too involved, I'd like to take a minute and mention our viewers tonight that you can catch the C3 podcast, another division of Fan First Productions. It's the premier Carolina Panthers podcast. Visit our website, CarolinaCatChronicles.com, for all the hottest news and takes on your Carolina Panthers. While there, you could also shop Amazon. You can access Amazon right from the C3 site. Additionally, if you need tickets to sporting events, concerts, or theater, please use our longtime partner with Fan First Productions, Ticket Monster. You can get your tickets on our site there. Last week, we spent a lot of time on the Falcons, guys. And rightfully so. Honestly, I think they looked the best last week. They were the best looking team in the division. This week, let's talk Bucks versus Saints, the Week 2 matchup in our division. I'm going to start with Zach Streif. In the interview I was watching after the game, he said the Saints need to run the ball better. They're not effective first and second down, and that puts them in a lot of third and long situations, which they've been unable to convert. The Saints ranked 6th in passing, but I think that's more because of an ineffective run game versus them wanting to throw the ball so much. And 25th in rushing. I looked at the stats, and their leading rusher, Mark Ingram, is the 35th highest running. Yeah, he's got the 35th highest yard total for running backs. So they are trying to run the ball, but just not very effective. Greg, where is the problem? Is the problem in the backfield? Is the problem with the coaching staff? Or are we dealing with strictly an offensive line issue?
Part of it, I think a lot of it is that offensive line right now is not run blocking very well or at all. Part of it is too, I think. Let's see. I really do think it's just more or less I think the run blocking is a big part of it. They're not blocking very well in the run. In the past, now the Arizona game, they blocked a lot better. Breeze had a lot more time. In the Tampa game, Breeze did not have much time. He was pretty much running for his life, or pretty much got hurt there too in that game. But I do think that they have to, definitely run better and concentrate on. And most of these guys are supposed to be known to be better run blockers. Unger, Lilito, all these guys will be pretty much road graders who are supposed to be able to run block a lot better than what they have been. But I think if they can open up, get back to actually running and open up the holes, the running game would be fine. I mean, I don't think it's the backs, because we have 3 really good backs who can actually who can actually run the ball. I mean, I think Kyrie is the better pure runner, and I think that's who they probably should be running a little bit more. But I know Ingram can kind of do a little of both, and of course they want to use Spiller to put him out in space more or less. That's kind of the idea.
Is he going to play this week?
Spiller will play, but I don't know exactly how much of a load he's going to get right off the bat. I mean, I think in the Tampa game, and they did pretty much what I figured they would do. Just a few plays, just to kind of get him out there, get his feet wet a little bit, and then, you might see him more against Carolina, because I think he's going to be needed a lot more against Carolina, especially.
How did he do while he was in? I didn't see.
He made a play. He made a couple plays here and there. I think one of his first plays was like a little pass play. I think it was for like 19 yards. They did hand him the ball a couple times to have him run, and he made a couple yards here and there, but nothing, no big significant runs. The only running back that really made any significant runs was Kyrie Robinson in the second half, where he actually, I think he had 5 rushes for like 48 yards. I think he was averaging 9 yards a rush.
That's good.
So yeah, and he was kept wondering why you keep handing it to him at that point.
Exactly.
At that, and they didn't. Peyton kind of backed off of it a little bit, and they still kind of went toward the pass game. But I mean, if a guy's giving me 9, 10, 12 yards a chunk, why not
feed him? Yeah, just feed him the ball. So I guess the big question that is on everybody's mind in this game is Drew Brees. Does he do the smart thing and watch this game, or does he try to be Mr. Tough Guy and play?
He's going to play. As far as he's concerned, he said he's pretty much he has every intention to play. And I guess to a point where he's looking at it, when he's at the end of his contract, he's 37 years old. It's not like he's got 10 more years of a career to really think about at this point. So and I think, and I mean, he's not the only player who's ever played with Favre played almost a couple of years with a torn rotator cuff at one time, and he didn't know it, but it was torn, and sometimes pitchers do it. So I think he's figuring that he's going to take the shot at it. Now, myself, I thought maybe he should sit out a game, at least one game, try to allow it to still heal more. They said the main key is going to be how strong is the arm as far as with his passes. So myself, I think that he might have to resort to shorter passes, maybe go 4 or 5 yard passes, something shorter within that 10-yard range. Not try to do the chunk passes, and shorter and rely on the run game a little bit more. And I mean, that's if they can open up the holes. Because I mean, I know Carolina has a very stout defense,
right?
And that's easier said than done.
Sure.
especially against Carolina. And you
Right.
know, so like I said, I mean, out of respect to the defense we're playing against, yeah, that's not. I'm not. You know, counting on that one as much.
I think you hit the nail on the head when you said when they do throw the ball, they got to keep it short, so like 3-step drops because they want to get the ball out.
1, 2, 3, get it out, and I think if he can do those type of things and get short passes, wanted to still, you know, he still got a passing game, but then you know at the same time he can still kind of mix in the run there, and you know maybe it can work. But that, like I said, I mean that also brings the 8 in the box, so that's also another. You know, it's a lot of different things. How you're gonna beat if they counter you? How you gonna beat that
Right.
if they counter you? So, and that's what they have to prepare for those things.
On the flip side of that, the Bucks did get their first win of the year, Gene. They were led by the franchise wonder boy, Jameis Winston. And I think the most impressive thing to me about the win was the fact that it was in New Orleans.
Yeah.
You know, even if
seven straight losses to the New Orleans Saints.
in New Orleans.
In total.
Okay.
So you're talking about 2 different coaches here that have not beaten the New Orleans Saints, and here we are with Lovie Smith bringing in Jameis Winston, and we're able to get that win. And I promise you that if this was the same team from last year, it wouldn't happen.
And you think it's all because of Winston, or just
there's a number of different things. Number one, last year we didn't have a legitimate offensive coordinator, where this season we do have an offensive coordinator. You can see where the offensive line, who was shredded in week 1, is kind of coming together a little bit right now. Ali Marpet is as Scott Karasik. I want to give you props because you mentioned this guy way back even before the season started, you know, and you talked about, you know, high praises for Ali Marpet, and we can see how he's starting to evolve as a good offensive lineman. He's still making mistakes, but he's a rookie. But I've seen so many splash plays. I went back and watched the Bucks game again, and you see a lot of plays that he's making to open up holes. So the offensive line, which was a big problem last season, you can see a lot of improvement from last season to this season.
right? I think that is an area of enormous improvement. I know last year there was a lot of frustration with the offensive line, and you know it's funny you mentioned offensive coordinator because that coordinator used to coordinate for the Falcons, if I'm remembering right.
Dirk Cotter, that is correct.
Right. So, Scott and Aaron, what are your thoughts on Dirk Cotter or Cutter?
I thought Cutter was good his first year in Atlanta, back in 2012, where he basically had the best of Tony Gonzalez and Roddy White and Julio Jones. All 3 of those guys were healthy. I think he took advantage of those 3 guys' unique skill set. I think in subsequent years when he didn't have those sorts of players, with Julio getting hurt and Roddy missing a big chunk of 2013, and obviously Tony Gonzalez retiring in 2014, I don't think without those 3 players really playing at a high level and sort of carrying the offense along with Matt Ryan, I don't necessarily think his play calling and sort of his ability to adjust to not having those guys was very good. But I think the Tampa Bay can work because he has Vincent Jackson, he has Mike Evans. When Safarian Jenkins gets back healthy, he'll have a good tight end to throw to. If they can get the running game going, then I think he has things to work with. But I think what Gene says is it is a major improvement, even though I have a low opinion of Dirk Cutter. I think he's definitely better than, who was the guy, Arroyo last year?
Marcus Arroyo.
Yeah, basically was a quarterback coach that was, thrust into this situation, with Tedford, in his situation. Yeah. So it was pretty much they were screwed from the get-go last season. So I think Cutter is a big improvement from what they had last year, but I wouldn't sit here thinking he's going to be a great offensive coordinator for that team to carry, long term or anything like that.
Do you
Well,
think?
well, Aaron, if I can step in here, if you consider the offensive coordinators the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have had in their season, I would say this is the most legitimate offensive coordinator that we've had since John Gruden. And prior to John Gruden, I would say John Gruden would be the only one other than this guy. I've seen where he has come in and made an impact on Matt Ryan, and I think that what you see Matt Ryan doing this year had a lot to do with Dirk Cotter's influence in the past.
And I would ask you, he was obviously putting the ball up a lot because of his receivers, the talent he had, and when Gonzalez was there, of course, he can do so much in an offense. Do you think he was one of the reasons he threw it so much was because of the lack of a running game in Atlanta?
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to decide. Do I think it's his issue? I wouldn't blame Dirk Cutter for the lack of a running game. Basically.
I would.
I think it had to do with the team letting Michael Turner get old, not replacing him, and then replacing him with an older Steven Jackson, letting the offensive line go. And so I don't really blame Dirk Cutter for the lack of a running game. But, Scott may disagree.
I feel like his play design, outside of when Mike Tice was here, there was no running game. And even when Mike Tice was here, there still wasn't that great of a running game, but it was better than it was. I was not a fan of Cutter at least as a run coordinator, because you have all the people to get a solid zone scheme with Jacques Rogers, and they could have gone out and gotten a more zone back like Ben Tate, and then said, hey, we're going to go to a ZBS last year. That would have made so much more sense, especially with the way Cutter liked to do things. You had a lighter offensive line. I mean, yeah, outside of Justin Blaylock, but you had a pretty solid light offensive line. You would have been okay. I feel like he was a big reason why they weren't able to do it.
How much say-so did he have in the personnel as far as the Atlanta Falcons go at that time?
I mean, on offense, probably not that much. I feel like it was Mike Smith or, pretty much no one. Mike Smith or Dimitroff or no one.
No, the reason I asked that was because we have seen a resurgence in Tampa Bay of the muzzle hamster. Mr. Martin has played like he was playing when he was a rookie. Now, I know it is a contract year for him. Yes.
And he's healthy.
And he is healthy, and the offensive line has got better. So, I think he's ranked as the 12th leading rusher in the NFL right now, as far as yards go. So, this guy, Cutter, is recognizing that he has a solid running back with a solid offensive line, and you see him incorporating that into the offense. More so than I thought when he was with Atlanta. That's why I asked that question. So how much of a difference has having the muscle hamster back to form helped Jameis Winston?
Oh, most definitely, because you're taking plays off that he could be throwing the ball. I mean, you look at last season, and the running game was non-existent. You had running backs that couldn't. There was no hole available, so tackles for loss. I mean, you look at the stats from last year, and the running game was atrocious. Doug Martin was just coming off of injury. I think it was an ankle injury and possibly a shoulder injury. Prior to that, when you had Greg Schiano here, he pretty much ran him into the ground, and he ended up having a season-ending injury because, you're going 30 yards down the field trying to throw to the running back. He's healthy now. And you can see a big difference. He's lost weight. He came in the training camp where he was ready to make a difference, and we can see where he has made a difference, where he's lost weight. He's toned himself up and gotten himself ready for the football season, and he's doing quite well. I take that along with the offensive line gelling and creating holes, and you will see. And what I'm hoping from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is to see continual improvement. Right now, we're halfway to our overall win record from last season. So, anything else is a plus.
That's pretty funny that you say that, but I totally get your point, So one thing I noticed was it looked like Winston felt more comfortable in week 2. Now, was that because he, just familiarizing himself with the offense and getting used to the speed of the NFL, or was it because the Saints are just so dinged up and so injured and they've got so many backups?
I think, I'm going to give the devil's due. I think it's a little bit of both. Jameis Winston, I saw the report from Steve Mariucci where he said that he texted Jameis Winston at 1:30 in the morning after the Tennessee Titans game, and this guy's looking at game film. So Jameis Winston's one of those players, he hates to lose. And, we'll see, you guys will see this in the NFC South, that, if he loses a game, he's going back and looking at his mistakes, trying to correct those. If you'll notice, last week, no interceptions. He did have a fumble, and that's because he was trying to extend a play, rookie mistake, and hopefully he learns from that. But what I'm seeing from Jameis Winston is a quarterback that's committed to winning, and that's what we haven't had for a long time. You can look at Josh Freeman, and I know a lot of fans, Bucs fans that watch this may not agree with me. Josh Freeman did not hone his craft. Josh Freeman played on pure talent, and that was it. Where you see Jameis Winston looking at film, trying to improve, he's showing that he is a leader of this team, whereas any of the quarterbacks that you've seen in the past have not shown near what Jameis Winston is showing right now.
It's funny because Josh Freeman was the bottom end of what I could see Jameis Winston being, which to me is still a solid NFL starter. But he does hone his craft. You've got Ben Roethlisberger. You've got who's that other big ass dude? No, there's like I'm totally blanking. He's like 6'6". Dante Culpepper.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one of those two guys has peak form and their peak forms. I could see him as one of those two guys.
Yeah. I think he's unique. I can't compare him to any other quarterback because what I'm seeing from him is, his commitment to winning. When I saw him on the sideline and he's high-fiving players coming off, and, he's trying to make sure that everybody's in the game. I realize that he is a rookie, but he is slowly but surely earning the respect of the veterans on that team. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about this quarterback for what he's trying to do to make the Tampa Bay Buccaneers better.
I think you have a reason to be excited. He is coming in, and like you said, he's putting in the effort, not only on the field, but really the games are won or lost off the field. It's what you do when you're not playing football that makes you win or lose games. I wanted to ask.
I think a lot of people missed that here in Tampa.
Miss what?
Well, they missed that about Winston. Like myself, from the time I followed him from what he'd done in college, because the fact he always did pump up his teammates. Some of the same stuff he's doing now, he always did in college. And those are the things I saw that to me made him that he should possibly be a shot at a good being a really good, solid franchise quarterback. And it's hard to say, pretty much what range he'll be. But, I think whatever turns out, it won't be all that bad because of the fact he does study film. He does do all those things. And most people who tend to be naysayers, they never point that stuff out. They point out all the off-field stuff that, he ain't the first that ever done such a thing, or some of the things,
Right.
Some of us twice his age still do stuff like that. So, it's the truth.
I watched the Colts game. I watched the Colts game, and I saw some of the mistakes that some of the mistakes the Colts made, I just didn't. I'm like, wow, that you've been in the league how long, and you're still doing this. So I don't know. I'm excited about Jameis Winston. What he's doing, what he's doing off the field as well. Charity wise, and I mean he's trying to change his image from this image that he had in college. And a good example is Tyrann Mathieu here in Arizona. Everybody talked about how bad this guy had a character issue.
Yes.
Our general manager, Jason Light, was part of the
But he
vetting
could play
process.
ball.
Yeah, was part of the vetting process for Tyrann Mathieu coming to the Arizona Cardinals. And I think that what he's done there kind of translates here in Tampa. And I think that they didn't hit a home run with Jameis Winston. It remains to be seen, but just what I'm seeing right now, he will be an improvement over the quarterbacks that we've had over the past 7-8 years.
I agree with that. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, but you also be surprised how many people there are people who want him to fail. They really want Winston to fail here in Tampa.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're really, because of what all the stuff they heard.
Because of Mariota.
Some of them want to see him fall flat on his face. And don't get me wrong, nothing against Mariota. The kid is just as talented. He's a very talented quarterback. I like Mariota a lot. I have no issues with Mariota.
It's unfair to compare him.
Yeah,
I agree. You should never compare them. They're two different people, two different backgrounds, just all sorts of stuff.
Right. And they're going to two different teams with two different coaches asking them to do two different things. Right. I want to ask you this.
But both of them do things that these guys do. That's the thing.
Gene, I want to ask you if you think that Winston can get this team above 500, or are the Bucs still a player or three away?
And this is the homer in me. I think that the Bucs are going to beat some teams that are going to be overlooking them. Every team that faces the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year is overlooking them to the next season. I've listened to podcasts prior to the season. Everybody has their matchup with the Buccaneers as a win. Mm-hmm. So a lot of teams are overlooking the Bucs, the Giants, Dallas Cowboys, the Philadelphia Eagles, even the Colts. Everybody's overlooking the Bucs, and I think as they continue to progress, they're going to open a lot of eyes.
I know here recently, or through the season thus far, ASJ, Austin Seferian-Jenkins, has been Winston's go-to guy, sort of his safety valve. He really looks to him as a target. Is he playing Sunday?
No, he's out for 4 to 6 weeks.
Oh wow!
Shoulder injury. So if he's on your fantasy team, you may want to reach.
Well,
yeah,
so,
I have him too.
Who's going to come in and take his place?
It looks like possibly Luke Stalker, which is kind of frustrating for me because if Luke Stalker was doing his job, I don't think they would have drafted Austin Seferian-Jenkins. Mm-hmm. We kind of limit ourselves. I think that if he can stay healthy, he's a benefit for the team. But where we're at right now, I think we picked up Cameron Brate from the Saints practice squad. So it remains to be seen what the final schedule's what everything's gonna look like.
Right.
But right as it stands right now, it'll probably be Luke Stalker as a starting, or Meyer as our starting tight end.
So you will be down a tight end, and Mike Evans is he's back 100%.
He's 100%. And what's interesting about the Saints game, Mike Evans was not factored into the play calling, into the plan, because of his injury. Mm-hmm. So any of the plays that you saw him in, it wasn't anything planned. So you will see him 100%. They will be game planning him into the scheme against the Houston Texans, so you'll get to see him 100%.
Okay, well that's definitely a bonus for Winston. That'll really help him out, especially in the absence of Jenkins. All right. Well, We'll move on to the Falcons now. All right, Aaron, what's up with the Falcons? People are saying, and this goes to you too, Scott. People are saying the NFC South is theirs to lose.
I mean, I have to agree with it because they're like the Colts, or not the Colts. They're like the Panthers, but with an offense.
So you think their defense is as good as the Panthers is?
I mean, it may not be as good as the Panthers, but it's probably the second best defense in the division, easily.
I would say that's probably true.
I think the Falcons have the most balanced roster right now, looking at the division.
The defense is improved. The offense is as good as everyone expected. I would definitely agree with you there. So is the defense good enough to take down Cam and the Panthers as division winners?
I think so. I have them being the favorite moving forward. Picked them preseason, and based off what I've seen so far this season, I still have them doing that. Obviously, the Falcons have historically had troubles dealing with Cam. That's probably not going to change a whole lot, but I do expect us to do a little bit better job containing him this season with our defense now that we have an actual pass rush that can put pressure on him. With Carolina not having those weapons on the outside besides Greg Olsen, and the Falcons now having a defense that can actually cover tight ends, I feel like we're in a position where we'll be able to, if our offensive line can hold up, handle what the Panthers are going to throw at us. So.
I think you could see both the Panthers and the Falcons be 10-win teams heading into that what is it, 2 games in 3-week stretch?
Yeah, something like that.
Where Atlanta gets Carolina, heads to Jacksonville, and then heads home for Carolina again. And I think Carolina hosts Atlanta, goes to Buffalo, and then flies down to Atlanta. So they get the exact, or not Buffalo, the Giants they get. So Carolina gets the Giants, and then they fly back down. So they get to go up, have a nice cold week, and come back down. So.
Mm-hmm. And usually the Giants games are pretty physical when they play Carolina. So where's the biggest improvement come from? I'm just going to say offensively. Where have you seen what's making this offense so explosive?
The line's tremendously better. So, Julio is going to be Julio, but the line looks so much better this year than it has in the past. Overall, they've allowed a combined, I've got it right here. They've allowed a combined 9 quarterback disruptions through 2 games. They've allowed 2 sacks, 3 hits, 4 hurries. I mean,
well, okay, I'm going to throw this at you. Over the past 2 weeks, the Carolina Panthers have the highest rated corner according to Pro Football Focus in the NFL, and that is Josh Norman. He has shut down everybody who he's played against. And last year, he did an outstanding job against Julio Jones in both games. So if we're able to take out Julio Jones, remove him, or just sort of nullify him. I mean, he's going to get some, definitely, but I don't want to see him. I don't think he'll go off for like 100 yards. What do you guys? What's the backup plan?
Well, they're using Julio completely differently this year. They would just put Julio alive, they go after it, and that'd be it. Norman doesn't seem to shadow the number 1 receiver in Carolina from the first 2 games that I watched this year. He tends to be on that right side, just like Marcus Trufant used to be, and just covers it perfectly. And he's a damn good corner, don't get me wrong. But if you move Julio in the slot, you move Julio to the other side, Julio's going to destroy whoever you have as your nickel corner, whoever you have on the other side.
Well, we've got Peanut Tillman over there, who was a little long in the tooth. I will admit that, but he is a very savvy veteran.
He's never played well against Julio.
I could believe that. And if I'm the Panthers coach, I'm not bullheaded and I'm not going to stick one corner on one side. If I have to, I'm going to man you up specific. You know, you're going to be covering Julio the whole time. And I saw this maybe yesterday. What's up with Tevin Coleman? Broken rib?
Yeah, he's got a broken rib. He's going to be out 2 weeks. He should be fine though.
Okay, so he'll be back in no time.
Oh yeah.
All right. And I guess my other question was Warlow. Is he hurt?
He's got a bruised calf. They think it's going to be. It's day to day, but like, it's basically they're icing it. He's going to have it drained, and then he should be fine.
Oh, so it's bruised, but it's swollen.
Yeah, it's bruised and swollen. It's really the muscle
Mm-hmm.
cramping up during the game, and then he got a hit on it.
Yeah, I think he'll be managed as opposed to not really worrying about him. You know, I think he'll play, but he just will have to be managed.
And, you know, I got to ask about my favorite Atlanta Falcon, Troy Bierman. What's his status been so far this season?
He was a senior last week.
Horrible game. And so that means he's in line for another, like, 7 horrible ones. Then I have, like, one good one randomly against the Bucks, probably, because he always has a good game against the Bucks. Or against the Saints, because he always has a good game against the Saints. But, like, he'll have a good game against one of those two teams. We'll be like, oh, my God, Troy's back. And then it'll be back to shit.
Ian's my favorite. I love to watch I love that show with him and his wife on TV. They just crack me up. How has the feel, I guess, in the fan base been since the new head coach Dan Quinn has come in?
Optimistic. Even Aaron's optimistic.
That's his change.
Is that something to say? Are you a pessimistic kind of guy?
I get. I'm accused of more pessimism than I deserve, but certainly I would not say that some of it is deserved.
Okay, so you're admitting to some level of pessimism. Sometimes you're a glass half empty guy.
Yeah, you could say that.
Especially when it comes to the Falcons.
Sometimes, huh?
Well, the thing is, Scott and I have been doing this show since 2013, so obviously there hasn't been a whole lot of glass half full the last 2 seasons in the Falcons. So I've sort of earned the reputation as the more negative one between the two of us.
Right. Well, some people would call it negative, others would call it realistic. And, you know, it is what it is. So Quinn came in, and he's known as this defensive guru, right?
Yeah.
So where has the biggest improvement on the defensive side of the ball come? Is it just their general attitude? Is it the scheme change? What is making this Atlanta defense worthy of an NFC South crown?
I would say it's the defensive line is probably the one thing that you would signal because the Falcons have a pass rush for the first time in 8 years. But I do feel like every other unit on their defense has improved. Justin Durant's been playing lights out at weak side linebacker. Obviously Desmond Trufant is pretty much, you know, he's been so good that he's not really been a factor in games because no one has really thrown at him. Robert Alford has made improvements. Ricardo Allen looks really good at free safety. He had a couple of mistakes against the Giants, but he played it magnificently against the Eagles. And people are, you know, I think both Scott and I were just kind of hoping that he would just be average going into the season. But now I think we both have a lot more optimism that he could actually be pretty good this year. William Moore's back healthy. He's an enforcer on defense. He misses some tackles. He'll blow some coverages. But he's going to lay guys out, and that's the sort of physical element that was sorely lacking on the defense last year. Warlow's improved, but again, it's really about the pass rush. You know, with Claiborne now playing basically as a defensive tackle, Babineau being reduced to being more of a situational guy than an every down player. Obviously, Vic Beasley, the number 1 pick, is terrorized Eric Flowers last week against the Giants. And O'Brien Schofield has blossomed from an obscure backup that no one really knew about in Seattle into being a legitimate complementary player, both as a run defender and a pass rusher. And then the guys that the Falcons picked up last offseason, all those big, beefy run stoppers, and Soliai, Jackson, and Rashid Hageman are doing their thing. So it's pretty much a across the board improvement, but it's really I would say the biggest improvement was the defensive line in the front seven, largely because it had the most growth to make from last year to this year.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that when you're looking at the unit as a whole, effort, the run fits, and the pass rush are the three things that you can really take away from it. And remember how I kept saying on the show the last year, put the guys in the right spots and they'll perform in the right duties. Put Jonathan Babineau as a 3 technique and he'll perform. Put Rashid Hageman as a 3 technique and he'll perform. Put Paul Soliai at nose tackle. He'll perform. Hell, Tyson Jackson's even playing well. And I was murdering him last year for how bad he played. And
I think you wanted him cut last year.
I wanted him cut all offseason. And then this year, he comes in. He still sucks at pass rushing, but you knew that going in with Tyson Jackson. You knew he wasn't a pass rusher. But he's a hell of a run defender as a 5 technique. And that's what they're using him as, a 5 technique run defender in base sets. And because of that, because they've got Hageman, Soliai, and Jackson basically saying, hey, we've got a 300-pounder, a 350-pounder, and a 310-pounder. Run it at us. Let's see what you got. And those guys are holding their run fits. It's making it so much easier for Warlow and Durant and Beasley to go out there and just make plays.
Yeah.
Stupar looks good.
Yeah, I knew Beasley was going to be an impact player just because he's so fast. He's kind of a freakish athlete a little bit in his own right with he's strong for his size, and he will run right by you and make you look slow. Greg, as an outsider looking in, what's the biggest difference you see on this Atlanta team? Is it the coaching? Is it the schemes? Is it personnel? Where's the big change that you see as an outsider?
I think they're absolutely playing a lot better. I mean, you can see a lot more chemistry with the defense. From what I saw, I didn't get to see really the Giants game. I did get to see the Philadelphia game. And where I saw a lot of chemistry. I know a lot of parts too is a kind of a natural injection with a new coach, and he's coming in there and he's but he's also made some good changes to the team. You can definitely tell there's a lot of chemistry with the team. The defense playing better. The offense has always been pretty good. Like you got a good offense coordinator there who can know where how to use everybody. That's not that hard. It's not that hard to run that offense to me. In a sense, because you got Julio Jones, who is probably second best, if not third best.
Yes.
Yeah. Only reason I call second, maybe because Antonio Brown is the only other guy who I might, you know what I mean? But Julio could easily be number 1 too. So I mean, that's another debate. But when you got somebody like him, and they got a little bit of a run game, that'll help them. So I mean. Overall, they have definitely made some improvements, without a doubt. So, good job with what Coach Quinn has done with them.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he's been pretty impressive. Your offensive line has improved because of personnel moves or the type of scheme that the coordinator has brought in?
Combination of both. You got Chris Chester, Andy Levitri, and Mike Person, all new guys on the line this year. Person honestly sucks at center. He's a horrible center. He can't snap the ball. He's not a great blocker. But for whatever reason, he's the starter, and he seems to fit in that spot with the guys that they have decently. And he's improved a little bit from week to week, but his snapping still sucks. If the
Has
dude
this
could
been?
snap, I would be a lot happier. Because he does make decent line calls, and you can see that in the pass protection.
Mhm.
And Levitri and Chester, they're way better than what Blaylock and Asamoah were last year. And I thought Blaylock and Asamoah were excellent last year. I mean, Levitri had a rough first game, but going against Fletcher Cox in your first game with the new guys, it's gonna be tough. I think throughout the year we'll see him get a lot better really quickly. And then Jake Matthews and Ryan Schrader, I've been pounding the table that those two guys are two of the best young offensive tackles in the NFL. And they're showing it up. They're showing up every week as two of the best young offensive tackles in the NFL. Ryan Schrader right now is easily a top 5 right tackle. And then Jake Matthews is easily a top 10 left tackle in the NFL, period, regardless of whatever you're seeing or whatever team you root for. Those guys have performed. Those guys are in the right scheme with the right coaching, and their pass blocking has turned around tremendously from where it was last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, last year that was a huge weakness for them, and it was so obvious. It was so obvious. Where did you pick up the guys that you brought in and have helped this line so much? Was it free agency, draft? Where did you?
Levitri was a trade for a 6th-round pick right before the season. Chester was a free agent from I want to say August or not August, June or July, and then Person was just a street free agent. He had 60 snaps before this season in the NFL.
Wow.
60. So far this year, he's at 150.
Wow. So he
doubled his career snaps in 2 games.
Yeah.
And you can tell he doesn't have much experience based on how he's playing, because he has played like garbage for the better part of 2 games. But he's lucky because he's got a competent left tackle next to him, or a competent left guard next to him, I should say, and a competent right guard. And now that he and Levitri are starting to get more chemistry together, just in 1 game, it was night and day.
Mm-hmm.
It was absolutely night and day. They went from just terrible together against the Eagles to a lot better. Just 1 more week working together. I can't wait to see him against the Cowboys. I don't think the Cowboys have the talent that the Eagles or even the Giants had on their defensive line. I don't think Tyrone or Jack Crawford are that good.
Let me ask you this, Aaron. Scott mentioned how much the offensive line has improved. How has the bringing in Tevin Coleman helped that run game? I think that the Panthers were looking at him. We were hoping the Panthers were going to get Tevin Coleman. What do you think he brings to Atlanta, and have you been pleased with his progress thus far?
Simply put, I would say what he brings is speed. There's been a lot of plays looking at the All-22 in these past 2 weeks where defensive linemen have gotten penetration and normally would have blown, if that was Devontae Freeman or Steven Jackson or Michael Turner, those plays would have been a 2-yard loss. But because Tevin Coleman has such great burst and acceleration, he can get that handoff and he can just accelerate out of that tackle for loss and get to the edge and turn that into a positive play. So a play that with another running back would be a 2-yard loss or a 0-yard gain, he turns it into a 4-yard gain or a 5-yard gain. And I think, moving forward, there was a lot of talk when we drafted him that he wasn't a good fit in the zone blocking scheme. And I know Scott disagreed with that, and I disagreed with that at the time. And, that sort of criticism of him looks completely wrong at this point based off of how he's played these first 2 weeks.
I agree. I've been impressed with him. I thought he would fit in somewhere pretty quickly, and he has. It's just unfortunate that it was with Atlanta. Well, unfortunate for me anyway. All right, last question before we start picks. How lucky do you guys feel that you get to play this diluted version of the Cowboys this coming Sunday?
I'd rather play him with Des Bryant healthy. I wanted to see Desmond Trufant versus Des Bryant in the worst way. I wanted to see that so bad. That was what I wanted to see this game, and I don't get to see it. So as a football fan, I'm disappointed. And Tony Romo is a top 10 quarterback. Worst case, he's top 15 quarterback.
I would say top 10 is very fair.
And
I would say top 10.
When a team is missing a top 10 quarterback, you're not getting them anywhere close to their best. Kind of like when Drew Brees has a shoulder injury, you're not getting them anywhere close to their best.
I agree with you 100% there. 100%.
So, yeah, I want to see the Falcons beat teams at their best, so there's no excuse. That being said, if this ends up being an easy W, I'm not going to turn it down. I'm not going to turn down being 3-0 to start a season in a rookie coach's first year, especially a guy like Dan Quinn, who no one's expecting. What's great about this year is no one had super high expectations. I was expecting 9-7, 10-6 in that range. So if they can get 3 wins knocked out right away, and 2 of them were games that I was expecting to see the Falcons lose, because I was expecting them to lose to the Eagles and the Cowboys.
Yeah, right.
So if they can get those 2 knocked out of the way, not even have to worry about it, that'll make me so much happier. And then we'll get to see a team that is just gelling even more with a coach who finally knows what the hell he's doing.
I think another disappointing aspect is if you were playing a healthy Cowboys team, that's a really good measuring stick for just how good you really are. You know, you did beat the Eagles, who were supposed to be a really good team, but it was the first game of the year, too. You know, a lot of things can happen in the first game of the year, and then week 2, the Eagles really showed how bad they are, or how dysfunctional they are, maybe is a better word. But playing this Cowboys team that has played well up to this point, not necessarily been the prettiest wins, but they've won, you know, come from behind. It would have been a great way to see just how good your team is, or get at least an early feel for the level of talent on your team.
Right.
Right, I really think that. That's
because
another.
If you end up being blown out or something.
Yeah, that's another thing you're going to lose by not playing a fully loaded Cowboys team. All right, well, we'll get to our picks. And, Greg, since we're playing this week, we'll go first. Do you have a prediction for this Sunday's matchup?
Well, I mean, at this point, I just don't know exactly how good Breeze is going to be at this point, or how healthy he's really going to be with his shoulder. Like pretty much like last night, I predicted that they would. I think the Saints do lose this game, but I think I'm actually go with a closer score than what I did before. I think it's going to be 20. I think it's going to be like somewhere around 2017 by Carolina. The only way Lewis wins this game is that they go turnovers. If they actually can get, I mean, they were able to produce 1 turnover against Arizona. They produced 2 against Tampa Bay. If they can produce, I think, 2 or more turnovers against Carolina, I think New Orleans can pull this game out, because at least, if anything, it's going to kill a couple of drives. Mm-hmm. And I think the Saints can pull that game with turnovers. But, I mean, overall right now, if it's a clean game, I have to go. I mean, I would think Carolina at this point, because it's just so much uncertainty with Breeze's shoulder. I just don't know. I don't know how strong that arm is going to be and what they're going to do. So, as much as it pains me to,
I know it does too. I think we are division opponents. We usually play pretty close because we're just so familiar with each other. I think the Panthers do win this one by double digits, but it's not a blowout. I think it's going to be somewhere along the lines of 24-14, 24-13, something like that. I think Carolina holds them in check pretty much, and Cam moves the ball fairly well. I think Cam will have a solid game if his receivers can catch the ball. I think he had 11 between drops, tipped passes, and his arm being hit by defenders. I think there were 11 passes that didn't get caught for those 3 reasons. So he could have had a really big week last week if some of those had been completed. But yeah, that's my prediction, somewhere about 24-14, something like that. Ray, Gene, you guys are playing
Houston Texans.
Oh, nice. Okay. The 0-2 Texans in
Houston.
Wow, so they're really going to want to win. Okay. I believe Foster is supposed to be back this week.
Yeah, they're still undecided. I just saw a tweet from Greg Allman, one of the local Tampa writers, that said they're unsure if he's going to be available or not. So it hasn't been decided. Arian Foster will be a definite difference maker. With their quarterback situation in Houston, I don't know what to think. I really don't. So if Tampa could stay the course and the offensive line continues to improve, if the defensive line gets pressure on the quarterback, it makes it a little bit easier for the secondary and the linebackers. And I think that Tampa can pull out a win in Houston.
I just saw that it looks like DeAndre Hopkins is not playing because of a concussion. So that would go hugely in your favor, I think. That would be a real big plus.
Yeah, not to mention Mike Evans coming in for the first full game of the season. That makes a big difference as well.
Agreed.
And I think Jameis Winston did develop some kind of chemistry with Mike Evans during the preseason, so I think that will continue on into the season.
All right, what was that score one more time?
For me, I see a 21-7 game.
21-7. And you're saying Tampa?
That's if Arian Foster doesn't play.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. All right, and the Falcons are taking on the Cowboys. Is that a Sunday night game or anything like that?
It's a 1 o'clock game.
1 o'clock game, so it's in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
It's in Dallas.
Oh, it is in Dallas. Okay. And
so is Whedon starting, or is Matt Castle going to come in and?
It is going to be Whedon this week. Yes, it is going to be Whedon this week. So what do you guys think? Where do you see this game going? We know Romo's not playing. We know Dez is not playing. And we know Whedon will be the quarterback. So what do you guys think?
I'll go first. I don't expect the Falcons to sort of, put up a monster score against the Cowboys. It's a road game. It's, it's going to be sort of probably a pretty boring game because I think Dallas is going to try to run the ball and play that style of football, which I think will, the Falcons will try to put points on the board, but I don't see them blowing out the Cowboys even in their weakened state. So I'm going to go with 24-17 Falcons.
Wow.
I could see that. Definitely. What about you, Karasik?
I'm thinking it's a little bit better than that for the Falcons on offense. I'm thinking it's more like 28-17, just because I think Dallas's defense isn't going to be able to contain Julio. I also don't think that they're going to be able to contain Jacob Tamme, because I don't see how good they're like outside of Sean Lee. They don't really have any great linebackers in coverage, and I could see them scheming backside of the play for Tamme to be wide open.
Has Sean Lee even played a full season healthy?
In Dallas, no.
Not in a couple of years.
If he did, it was like
not in a couple of years. He got hurt. He got hurt like in the last 2 years.
Maybe in the last century.
But
I think Golden Tate gave him a concussion, and from there his injury woes just continued.
Yeah.
I could also see the Falcons winning with a shutout too, just because you've got Brandon Whedon on the other side of of the field as the quarterback,
I know.
and you've got Desmond Trufant
Yes.
and Robert Alford going up against Terrence Williams and Cole Beasley.
I could see 35-7 easily.
Well, I will say this. If Dallas is smart, they will pound the rock with that huge offensive line they have and really put to task whether or not this Falcons front line is legit. That's what I would do. I would probably hand the ball off 50 times between all my running backs and see what if Atlanta really is as good as they think.
I mean, that doesn't seem like a good idea.
If DeMarco Murray was still there, I would say that I would be confident that would work a lot better than it would with the 3 backs they got.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why I would rather put the ball in the running back's hands with that great offensive line than have Whedon putting it up 40 times in a game. That's just me.
Yeah, you can't have nobody talking about Whedon putting up anything at 40 times, man. That's terrible.
Joseph Randall, Lance Dunbar, and Darren McFadden don't inspire me to say, "Hey, run the ball a ton." This fucking cat.
Well, I would.
That's what I'm saying. That's my point, Scott. That's exactly what I'm saying, Scott. That's my point. And like I said, if DeMarco Murray was there, that's a different story. But with those 3 backs, I ain't no way. You can't do it.
Well, that offensive line is going to be a good test for your Falcons and their defense. Doesn't Orlando Scandrick play for the Cowboys? And he's pretty solid DB, isn't he?
He's out for the year.
But he's out for
is he?
He's out for the year.
Plus, he could.
Yeah, he hurt himself early.
And then what about Morris Claiborne?
He sucks.
So you think Julio will eat his lunch?
Oh, he will eat his lunch. Morris Claiborne, Mr. 6 on the Wonderlic score. That guy, oh my goodness.
And Taylor, I feel like I'm a boxer Patman. He's going to get destroyed when Julio lines up in the slot. The only one that might be able to hang with Julio is Brandon Carr.
Yes,
I
Carr.
hate to say it this way, but Brandon Carr is not what he was.
No. He's a shell of the player he used to be.
No, he's not. True, very true. I mean, he might be able to play here and there. He'd be able to with him, but not the whole game.
And the Kraken is injured too, isn't he?
He's still on suspension.
Yeah,
the Kraken he's still out on suspension. Yeah, he's still out on suspension. It's Randy Gregory.
Randy Gregory is
Gregory's still out.
Yeah, Gregory's injured.
Yeah, he's out 4 to 6 weeks.
Jesus.
No, Gregory's still out. Yeah,
you guys have caught the Cowboys at the best possible time. I am not gonna lie, I'm envious. I wish we were playing them with this situation, but that's neither here nor there. All right, next Wednesday we're gonna do this all over again. I cannot wait till Sunday. I will be watching the Panthers game, but I will have an ear out for that Dallas game as well. And
I'll probably watching both games.
I'm interested in seeing that offensive line versus your defensive line, guys. I appreciate you all coming on the show. It's always a pleasure to talk with y'all. Aaron, thank you. You're always a great guest when you come on. Appreciate it. Gene, it's wonderful having you back. We missed you last week. Scott, I'm glad you were able to make it tonight. Thank you very much. And Greg, as usual, you did an outstanding job. Folks, this is the premier NFC South podcast, Southbound and Down. I am going to get a crown this holiday season, and whoever wins the division, when they're on the show during the season, can wear the crown or have it in front of them or do whatever they want with it. And whoever wins it every year, we're going to be sending it to whoever team the representative is, and they will hold it for that season. All right? So it's going to be the Southbound and Down crown.
Are we doing like the league now? Is that what we're doing?
Let's not do a crown.
The Shiva Trophy. What they call it, the Shiva Trophy.
The Shiva Trophy, exactly.
Let's do a title belt.
I like the title belt, baby.
Yeah.
The champ is here.
I like the title belt too, but I don't want to drop a C note on a title belt. I don't mind dropping
I got you.
15, yeah, 15, 20 bucks on a plastic crown. You know what I'm saying?
You know you're going to Burger King and getting that paper.
I'm not getting no paper crown.
No, you ain't come out here talking about you shelling out 20 bucks for a crown.
It's Halloween. It's Halloween, so I should be able to get a good deal on one. But yes, that is the show for tonight. Again, thank you guys, and we'll see you all next week. Same time, same channel. Have a great night, all right, guys?
Have a good night.